Have you ever stopped and wondered what you're really made of? I mean, really. In this explainer, we're going to zoom past the obvious stuff like skin and bone and go all the way down to the 4 essential molecular building blocks that create all life as we know it.
Okay, so let's get right into it. If you could somehow zoom in, way past your own cells, you'd find that everything you are, everything, is built from just 4 fundamental types of molecules. These are the biomolecules, the literal ingredients of life itself.
Now, before we meet these molecules, we have to understand this one beautifully simple rule that governs all of them. Think of life as like the ultimate Lego set. It takes these small individual bricks, we call them monomers, and just clicks them together to build these vast, complex structures, which, you guessed it, we call polymers.
That's it, exactly. The polymer is the whole train, and the monomers are just the individual wagons, linking up one after another. This super simple idea, small things joining to make big things, is pretty much the secret behind almost every biological structure we're about to look at.
So how do they actually connect? Well, it's this really elegant process. As 2 monomers cozy up to each other, they actually release a single molecule of water. That lets them form a strong bond and makes the chain just a little bit longer. It's a reaction called condensation, and it's basically how life builds everything. All right. First up, let's talk about carbohydrates. You probably know them as sugars and starches, and their main job in pretty much all living things, to act as fuel. They are all about providing and storing energy. The basic units here, the monomers, are these single sugar molecules called monosaccharides. You've definitely heard of the most famous ones, glucose and fructose. These are our body's primary, ready-to-use fuel source. They are the individual wagons for that carbohydrate train.
Okay, now this is where it gets amazing. Just look at starch and cellulose on this chart. One is the soft, easy-to-digest energy you find in a potato. The other is the super rigid, indigestible fiber that makes up a tree trunk. And get this, they are both polymers made of the exact same monomer, glucose. Just by linking them together a little differently, life creates completely different materials. It's incredible!
So, our next group, the lipids, they kind of break the rules a bit. These are your fats and oils, and they don't always form those neat polymer chains, but they all share one defining, non-negotiable trait. They absolutely hate water.
Lipids come in a few really important forms. You've got triglycerides, which are fantastic for long-term energy storage and for keeping animals like polar bears warm. And then you have steroids, like testosterone, that act as these powerful chemical signals all through the body.
But you know, out of all the lipids, let's zoom in on just one, the phospholipid, because honestly, without this little molecule, life as we know it just couldn't exist. It's this kind of two-faced molecule. It has a head that loves water and a couple of tails that are totally terrified of it. And this really unique structure brings up a fascinating question, right? What do you think happens when you drop millions of these molecules into water, say like the watery environment inside and outside of our cells? How are they all going to arrange themselves?
They do something just incredible. They spontaneously arrange themselves into a perfect double layer, a bilayer. The water-loving heads all face outward towards the water, while the water-fearing tails tuck themselves safely inside, away from it all. And just like that, you get a cell membrane, the flexible, protective barrier that encloses every single cell in your body.
Okay, so if carbohydrates are the fuel and lipids are the barriers, then proteins, well, proteins are the machines, the workers, and the actual structures. They are by far the most versatile molecules in the body. They do an insane number of jobs.
Now, proteins are true polymers, and their monomers are called amino acids. And here's the really cool part. Life uses just 20 different kinds of amino acids. But by arranging them in different sequences, kind of like letters in an alphabet, it can build a virtually infinite library of unique proteins.
And their versatility is just mind-blowing. Proteins are the structural beams, like the keratin that makes up your hair. They are your bodyguards, like the antibodies that fight off viruses. They're the delivery trucks, like the hemoglobin carrying oxygen in your blood. And they are the factory workers, the enzymes that speed up every single chemical reaction that keeps you alive.
And finally, we get to the most famous biomolecules of all, the nucleic acids. These molecules, they don't provide energy or structure. Their job is, well, it's even more profound. They hold the information, the master instructions for building and operating an entire organism. The monomers here are called nucleotides, Each one is made of 3 little parts, but the most important part is something called the base. Because just like letters in a word, it's the sequence of these bases along the polymer chain that actually spells out the genetic code.
So the two main types are DNA and RNA. The easiest way to think about it is that DNA is like the master blueprint, right? The priceless original manuscript that's stored safely in the cell's nucleus. RNA, on the other hand, is like a working photocopy. It's a temporary message that's used to carry instructions from the DNA out to the cell's protein-building factories.
And that right there is the central secret of life. The master code in your DNA doesn't build you directly. It's really just a massive instruction manual for one thing and one thing only: how to build proteins. By controlling which proteins your cells make and when they make them, DNA controls absolutely everything about you. Now, before we wrap this up, there is one special little nucleotide that really deserves its own shout-out. It's called ATP. It doesn't get built into those long DNA chains. Instead, it just zips around as a single, supercharged molecule. It's the universal energy currency that every single one of your cells spends to get work done.
So there you have it. Carbohydrates for your fuel, lipids for your barriers, proteins for all the action, and nucleic acids for the master plan. Just 4 basic molecular themes rearranged in countless ways to create every living thing you've ever seen. It really leaves you with a final thought. What does the incredible simplicity behind all of life's complexity tell us about the rules that govern our entire world?